How's it going, folks? We have a video on Square earnings today. It's John here. You're going to see some videos on short and medium term vacation rentals, furnished rentals, whatever you want to call them. I got 3 of those here in Southern California, and I'm doing more content on that recently because we were right in the thick of the busy season. It's actually Monday, so I'm a little bit late on this Square earnings, but we're going to talk about Square. Also, if you're new to the channel, if you haven't seen any of this, I actually have come out with a basket of stocks. It's about 50 stocks. It's going to be probably as many as 75 towards the end of this year, 2021. And Square is in that basket. These stocks are basically a basket of turbo growth tech stocks that I love and I'm watching. From that, I've developed a list of 10 strong buys. Which I say actually can 10x in the next 1 to 10 years. Everybody, I don't have an actual URL to buy that list just yet, but I will be coming out with it soon. But in any case, that's what I do. I talk a lot about that on this channel. You're also going to see some videos on adventure travel. I love to use my credit card rewards points and go travel. And then also just like active living because I can't sit behind the computer and work all the time. So what do we have? We have Square. Square has been on a tear lately. I'm going to take you into their investor relations and talk about some of the highlights of their earnings, which actually was on August 2nd. So I'm definitely a couple days behind on this one. But in addition to that, I'm going to take you into Yahoo Finance, and I've come up with a 6-point scoring strategy in how I analyze turbo growth stocks and when I take a position on them and whether I think they're going to they have 10x potential in the next 1 to 10 years or not. I'm also coming up with a kind of a refined list where some of them are really appealing, but maybe not necessarily 10x, but might be on that 5x list. Square is not on the 10x list. They are certainly in the basket of these turbo growth tech stocks that I like. And they might be on that 5x list. This 5x list is I haven't really even formed it yet. But the reality is that there's a lot of companies that might not really have that 10x potential, but they're kind of already big tech. I mean, Square is actually really kind of big already, so it's hard to imagine that it's going to 10x. But it does seem like it does certainly have some 5x potential, certainly. So let's get right into it, everybody. Okay. So basically with Square, what's happened is they have really just taken off with their Cash App. I really didn't realize how compelling their Cash App really is, and I'm going to take you into, like I said, their investor relations website to kind of talk about their Cash App a little bit. But I actually did a video recently. I was just kind of something that was just so crazy. But basically it was somebody that was I guess really an investment professional. It sounds like he's kind of like a venture capitalist, hedge fund kind of cutting edge, modern technology person. And he was talking on CNBC on why he thought buying Square was like buying JP Morgan in 1871, which at this point is 150 years ago. So obviously a great return. In that video, I went back to really as far back as I could go with JP Morgan, which was really, only to like 1980. It's about as far back as it went. And it was, obviously a very, very solid return back to 1980, as I recall, much more than 10x. So anyway, yeah, let's get right into it. So let me go ahead and take you into their investor relations area so we can talk about the Cash App, Square earnings in general and their Cash App. Okay, so we have right here, we've got the investor relation area of Square. And these are some of their highlights, folks. Okay, everybody. In the second quarter of 2021, we generated gross profit of $1.14 billion. That is a very, very thick gross profit, up 91% year over year. Very, very impressive, everybody. Cash App generated gross profit of $546. I didn't realize Cash App was actually 50% of their business like that. That's pretty amazing. Up 94% year over year. Our seller ecosystem generated gross profit of $585, up 85% year over year. As customers find value across our ecosystem, they have adopted more products and brought a greater amount of funds into Cash App compared to 2 years ago. Inflows per monthly transacting active customer nearly doubled, and gross profit per customer was up 2.5x. So you take a look at it, their gross profit, $1.14 billion for Q2 2021, up 91% year over year. I don't really focus too much on EBITDA on my channel. Cash App, $546. So pretty pretty clean 50% of their business, as you can see, this Cash App, right? Seller gross profit 585, so pretty tight. Seller gross profit still, above. And in case you're not familiar with Square, the CEO is Jack Dorsey, also the CEO of Twitter, and it's those little devices that those little small businesses, or really any business, will have on the iPhone or on their iPad, and then they can run your credit card. And the Cash App is like similar to what would be like PayPal, where people are sending money to each other. So there you go. So if you take a look at it, everybody, with respect to give you a little bit of color on my 6-point scoring system, the first, and most important thing is the product. You absolutely have to understand, what that product is, right? The next thing is actually market cap, and that's something that Square doesn't really have going for it, in my view. I, actually, as of the time of this recording, don't have a position in Square, other than I do have positions in the ARC, next generation internet, and then the ARC Innovation, and they both have positions in Square, but I don't have a direct position in Square just yet. I will be taking one, although I'm not crazy fired up about Square. And again, Square is not in my list of turbo growth tech stocks to actually 10x in the next 1 to 10 years. They certainly are in my basket of what is about 50 stocks right now, though. And yeah, so and really that is because their market cap is so big, over 100 billion, at the time of this recording. Gross profits, I really like to use the number 35%. The reason I say 35 is a couple things. So first off, if you can achieve a 35% return annually to your investments, number one, you're actually beating the venture capitalists at their own game, because the venture capitalists seek to return about 25 to 30% to their fund, and then also, they know going into it that only literally 10 to 20% of their investments are going to actually even return them their money. Number one, number two, actually give them a return, right? So anyway, so you're actually beating the venture capitalists at their own game. Number two, you're going to be doubling your portfolio value, not considering withdrawals, of course, every 3 years if you can achieve 35%. So you spin that into a company. So what happens if the company is doing 35% year-over-year revenue growth? Well, what's happening is, same thing with them. They're going to be doubling their revenue as a company every 3 years. Obviously, year-over-year revenue growth, I mean, that's the higher the better, right? So 35%, that's pretty key in a lot of things, right? That number 35. So I really like to see 35% or higher year-over-year revenue growth. And then also gross profits. Gross profits is really huge for me. That's, definitely one of the items in the 6-point scoring system, and I'd really like to see those gross profits, at least at 35%. Square actually does not check that box. They do not have gross profits that are over 35%. They're pretty in general. I mean, outside of the Cash App, they're a fairly low margin business, and I'm imagining that's because of the way it works with the sellers, and obviously they give the sellers the majority of that revenue that they generate. Kind of like payment processor, right? It's only 3% or something like that. So I imagine that going forward, they're going to put a much bigger focus on their Cash App. And then its value, everybody. What I do is like to take the annual gross profits and then divide that into their market cap, and from there, have a figure of 35 or less, because actually the lower that multiple is, the more value there is with respect to the market cap of that stock and the current really what the current gross profits are of that company, right? And then, ideally, if they can, have recently or about to hit $1 billion in sales. Square is way past that with gross profits over $1 billion. Their actual revenue is actually over 10 billion. So they're basically almost big tech, right? They're right there under Salesforce in terms of the actual amount of revenue that they generate. But because their gross profits are pretty low, they're in a little bit of their own league, right? In terms of getting, when you look at them compared to other tech. So let's take you into the handy dandy spreadsheet real quick. So I have them right here. So Square, you take a look at it. So most recently, the trailing 12 months, in terms of their Q2 2021 release, 15,900,000,000. So basically 16 billion in revenue, everybody. It's pretty amazing. And as you can see, Salesforce, actually, I really love Salesforce, but this video is not about Salesforce. They're pretty much right under Salesforce in terms of revenue, right? But you take a look at it, and Square's got about 24% gross profits, which is not that great for a tech company. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, basically 24%, gross profits. not too great. I really like to find opportunities where that gross profit level is really at least at 35%, and the ones that I really like typically have much higher gross profits. Like for example, as you can see, Salesforce is right above it at 75% plus gross profits. The crazy companies that I love to invest in are like, for example, Facebook, 80% plus gross margins. Airbnb hasn't really done much this year, certainly since they went public in December 2020, but they're also over 80%. But I really like to find those opportunities where that gross profit is at that 80, not 80, obviously 80 is pretty rare, but at that 35% level or higher. Square does have the year-over-year revenue growth going for them. Obviously, like I said earlier, I try to seek out opportunities where it's 35% or greater year-over-year revenue growth. As you can see in their most recent Q2 2021 release, they're at 67.74, so 68% year-over-year revenue growth. That is definitely great, everybody. So in terms of the way I score Square, really love the stock, love their product. They got that going for them. Their market cap is too high. They don't have that. Their gross profits aren't really good enough. They don't have that. They do have the year-over-year revenue growth. Their value right now is 33. So what that is their annual gross profits into their market cap. So as you can see, their annual gross profits of about about 3.8 billion into their market cap of 126. So they are under 35. So they have that. They've got that. They've got 3 points there, and they have not recently gotten to a billion. So they only get 3 out of 6. Everybody. So I certainly will be taking a position in Square, but I don't see them making it to my list of the top 10 turbo growth stocks to 10x in the next 1 to 10 years. As I make this new list of companies that I think could 5x, I do think that it's possible that they would make that list, because if you do that, you figure 126 times 5. I mean, that's that's going to be like around 600 billion. So that's pretty thick. But at the same time, it seems they're pretty similar to PayPal, right? And PayPal's market cap is gotten pretty out of control. They've done, there they are at over 300 billion. So it's kind of hard to imagine that you're going to get much more of a ride out of PayPal, but certainly a very, very successful company. But I do see PayPal and Square quite similar in the way that they process payments, and then certainly Cash App versus PayPal and Venmo, right? The other thing is, let's take a look. They have really been on a tear. I actually have my basket of stocks in what's called tip ranks. I don't have all my, the different portfolios that I have uploaded into tip ranks. So tip ranks does not know my values and all that. But basically, Square is on a tear literally since early June. I've been developing this list since early June, not even quite 2 months yet. And they're pretty much the third on the list behind Asana and DocuSign at over 30% stock appreciation since early June. So Square has certainly been on a tear. And a lot of very, very exciting things going on there with Square. So there you go, everybody. That is a quick brief for you on Square and what they did with their Q2 2021 earnings, which was actually released on August 2nd, right here in August of 2021. Hopefully you guys like that. Everybody, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm certainly not your financial advisor. I do have a background in investing, though. My first job out of college was Merrill Lynch. Then I did investment banking after that. And then I worked for Sun America here in Los Angeles for 3 years. Aside from that, I've got a great track record of investing. I've got 80x when you look at Netflix and their 52-week high. Bought Netflix, my core positions in 2011 and 2012, and then also bought Apple back in 2007, in June of 2007, before the first iPhone came out, and then I've got 3 other 10Xs, so a total of 5 10Xs to my track record, and my whole system has actually been working since, this little formula that I have here has been working since I took those positions in Apple back in June of 2007, but I've been investing for a long time, since 1989, and doing turbo growth technology since literally the early 90s. Everybody, I've got a blueprint I came out with recently on investing and credit. I'll put that link below. You can go check that if you want. I got a lot of guides and a lot of different information in there, and that guide's only $7 if you want to go check out those links. Thank you very much, and have a great week.